And we're back live on your number one sports podcast, All Things Sports, brought to you by Small Town Productions. I'm your co-host, Small Town EP, joined by your host, Wade Julian, and special guest for the evening, Big Kev Shot It. From upset central in college basketball to NBA trade deadline to Mbappe to La Liga in Spain, ATS is back to give you the real in sports. Gentlemen, the stage is set. Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada, Sunday, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce defending their Super Bowl championship title versus Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy, and Christian McCaffrey. How does a team, Julian, who everyone, including me, said was on a revenge tour, now beat a team who, in November, a lot of people said would not be present to defend their title?
By the way, I don't know if I caught the question there, but my thing is they're the Chiefs, bro. It's Andy Reid, it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Travis Kelce. I think if you have that group of guys in your locker room, you have a chance against anybody, and they've proved that. Obviously, this year, Steve Spagnuolo is like the wild card in all of this, and he's played one of the biggest roles in all of this for the Chiefs. But I think the fact that you can lean on a coach like Reid and a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, that's enough to kind of get you there almost. And then, you know, when you throw in little factors like Kelce, and when I say little, but factors like Kelce and Steve Spagnuolo in that defense, man, that's how they're here.
Kev, I'm going to throw the same question to you. How did we get here in the season in, a redo of a Super Bowl a couple years ago, Niners Chiefs? How did both these teams get here? It would be the first question I want to ask you.
Yeah, I mean, I think San Francisco was kind of the favorite all year to kind of get there. Everybody kind of has seen that this has been the most complete football team when they're healthy. As far as the Chiefs, I said it back in week 14, 15 on this show. Like, if I had to put my money anywhere, it's on Mahomes and the Chiefs. Just like Julian just said, like, I know a lot of people counted them out. I wasn't one of them. I just think he's the new LeBron. He's the new Brady. Like, that's a guy that you just don't bet against. And I stick with that. Is that's a guy that when it comes time postseason, like we see guys elevate their games, and he's shown time and time again that his game rises to another level when it comes January, February.
And we got Steve Spagnuolo on the Chiefs defense, known obviously for game planning, shutting down key players on the opposite side of the field. You know, we did it to Tua, Tyreek, to a certain extent, did it to Josh Allen, did it to Lamar. And now the 49ers have way too many key players. Like, it's just, you can go Debo, you can go CMC, you can you can go anywhere that they want, they can go. How does Steve Spagnuolo game plan for this 49ers offense, June?
I think that's a very complex question. I'm glad I'm not Steve Spagnuolo, and that's not my job to have to worry about, because listen, I know it's Super Bowl week now, but I'm sure that right after that game, after the Niners clinched the NFC, I'm sure Spags was, in his office trying to figure out what we're going to do to stop Christian McCaffrey. But if I'm Steve Spagnuolo, the way that I'm going about this defensively is stop the run, right? We're going to sell on the run, and we're going to force Brock Purdy to win this game. We heard a lot of noise from outsiders, whether it's the Cam Newtons or people calling Brock Purdy a game manager. Whether they're right or wrong, I think you need to go with that narrative and make Brock Purdy prove himself. Make Brock Purdy prove that I am a guy who can go out and win this game for the team. I am the guy that was the missing piece, so that when me, I hate on Jimmy G all the time. Jimmy G, if they maybe had a little bit better quarterback play, they win that Super Bowl in 2020. But that's neither here nor there. If I'm Spagnuolo, Christian McCaffrey is what's keeping me up at night, and the only thing that I'm, when I say only thing, I mean this is my priority, right? So stopping CMC, and that's easier said than done.
Is there another player, Kev, that you think Spagnuolo should hone in on, shut down, as opposed to CMC, or is CMC that guy? You're still muted, buddy.
First time that's happened to me. I think I still am a believer. I think I've said it on here. Their most important player to me on offense is Debo Samuel. You look at the games that they've lost, they didn't have Debo. And then the one game that they did lose where they did have Debo, he didn't have a great game. 4 catches for 42 yards, I believe. So make Brock Purdy throw the football and eliminate Debo. I believe that Ravens game, Kittle had a great game. McCaffrey had over 100 yards rushing. Debo only had about 40 yards receiving on 4 catches. So I think the big thing for Spags is how can I take Debo out of this game? How can I eliminate him from their game plan? And then you got to rely on Brock Purdy at that point to involve other guys and try to make throws to win the football game. And I think that's where Kansas City can win the football game.
Yeah, look, I don't know which one of you. First off, I hate agreeing with either of you on this pod, but it's kind of tough when it's an A and B thing, and I'm C, the co-host type of thing. I think it's going to be more of a CMC type of shutdown game that Spagnuolo has to play. He's just the man. Like he's it. I think if you can contain CMC and force everyone else to beat you, which again, kudos to his 49ers team. It's really not hard to have anyone else outside of CMC beat you. Like that's kind of needless to say, obviously goes without saying. But I think if you can contain Christian McCaffrey, play our game, I think the Chiefs could come out victorious in a back-to-back Super Bowl. I do see a very defensive game. Really, I don't know if either of these quarterbacks are going to be able to get off necessarily. We did see the Chiefs have their struggles as far as wide receivers early on in the year. They, kind of honed it down, nickeled it down. How does this 49ers offense match up with this Kansas City Chiefs defense, Julian?
I mean, this is one of the more dynamic offenses in the league, if not the most, as far as just weapons and, having an elite pass catcher at tight end, the best running back in the league, and a wide receiver running back hybrid. And I mean that in no disrespectful way. I think Debo Samuel has kind of changed, the game in a sense of what he does at the position. So, having all of that at the disposal, I think it's really just going to come down to execution and quarterback play. Um, Obviously, like there's two sides to it. Their defense has to come through and get stops when needed. And if they can hold up their end of the bargain, and I say if because as of late they haven't played the greatest defense. They haven't played that San Francisco 49ers, defense that we saw all season in the last 6-7 weeks or so. So if they're able to do that on their end, and then the offense, can come out and just execute the game plan and get in the flow of things, because Kyle Shanahan is very to the script. He loves to come out ready with 20 plays or so and get those guys rolling. And if things go well from there, then he can kind of just shift into whatever gear he'd like. But if the Chiefs defense is able to do what they did in the AFC Championship and make Brock Purdy uncomfortable and get the 49ers out of their system and out of their comfort zone, then we're going to have to start seeing some unorthodox play and maybe some unnatural play calling from Shanahan to get back into it. So I think it's just about execution.
Yeah, this is a Chiefs defense that had an average points allowed in the playoffs this postseason of 13.7 points. Amazing. They also had a QBR allowed of about 43, which is the second best in the postseason. Kevin, how does this 49ers offense match up with this Chiefs defense?
I mean, this is a damn good Chiefs defense. They kept the MVP to 10 points. They kept the league's highest powered offense to 7. And I think that I think how we saw Kansas City kind of like teetering on a bit of a downfall earlier, and people were questioning like, is this that same team from last year? Are they going to be able to defend their Super Bowl championship? I think that's kind of what the way San Francisco's been playing through the playoffs. Like they should have lost that Green Bay game, probably should have lost that Detroit game. and they won those 2 games. Credit to them, and they end up in the Super Bowl. But Patrick Mahomes is a different animal, man. And I just think like when you're going up against this team, as good as your defense is, the one game that Kansas City's defense didn't have a great game, Mahomes was the guy, and every time Buffalo scored, Mahomes would come right back and answer. So uh, ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to have an answer for Patrick Mahomes. Not even, I don't think Travis Kelsey or Pacheco or anybody else. I think you have to have an answer for Patrick Mahomes. And if you don't have an answer for Patrick Mahomes, I think it could be a long night for San Francisco.
June, you think this is going to
Will.
be? June, you think this is going to? We're going to get to that, June. Relax, slow down, buddy. You think that? Damn, you made me forget my whole train of thought just now. I want to kick it over to the chat real quick. Ray's in the chat right now. Shout out to all the viewers that are tapped in with us, saying Andy Reid's going to run circles around Shanahan coaching wise. June, you think this is going to be one of those instances where the first team to score is probably going to win this game, or is this going to come down to a historic Super Bowl finish?
No, it might be in between, somewhere in between there. I don't think that you score first and you win. I think it's going to be a long game. You know, the Super Bowl goes quick. Like that first half, football really, like first quarter goes by in a blink. Second quarter kind of gets through, and then third quarter slows a little bit, and then the fourth quarter is like almost an hour. But this game, I feel, is going to be like we might have a long first quarter. We might have a long second. Like the whole game might just drag out. And I think that we're going to see a lot of great execution on both sides of the Chiefs offense and defense and the 49ers offense and defense. And it's going to be that oil water where, you know, like, but at one point, who's going to make the play to change the game, right? And so I think that not so much whoever scores first wins the game, but whoever has that game-changing play can kind of find that momentum and take the game over. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Kev, I want to direct this question towards you. If the 49ers are to lose this game, is there a championship window of opportunity closed for the immediate future?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that's still a competitive team when you look at it. Like Purdy is he's shown that he can take a team to the Super Bowl. Um, Granted, he's got the probably the best pieces in the league around him with Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey. Um, so but do I think that the window's closed? No, not at all. I think that Shanahan's a great coach. As long as he doesn't have a lead in the fourth quarter, he's a great coach. And yeah, so I think San Francisco can still compete and still be there. Even if they lose this year, I think they just lost 4 years ago, and they're right back, and they've been competitive every year since then. So I don't think their window's closed.
My thing is, to your point that they were here 4 years ago and they've been competitive since and made NFC championships, they don't have the Super Bowl yet. And another loss here, where do we go from here kind of thing? Because this is the team to win the Super Bowl. I mentioned this maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago where I think EP mentioned like they were missing McCaffrey, right? And then I was just saying like now they got Brock Purdy, they have McCaffrey, and the defenses are just a little more shored up. I don't know how many more opportunities they're going to have. Obviously, it looks like this team will be back together for the most part next year, but you can't just expect to get to the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl every year. And so if they don't win this game, I'm just interested to see the direction that they take going forward. I don't call for coach's head because I think, like you said, Kev, Shanahan's a really good coach. He's a great coach, actually, and he gives you your best shot as San Francisco. But I do feel like there's going to be a sense of urgency and a extreme frustration from the John Lynches of the world if they find a way to lose this game.
Yeah, I asked that question because, I mean, they have a lot of, and they being the 49ers, they have a lot of players that are coming up on contracts extensions. I mean, you have Travarius Ward, you got Eric Armstead, Fred Warner, Brandon Ayuk, Dre Greenlaw. Obviously, CMC's is drastically underpaid at this point, so he's going to get it back. All these other people have contract extensions coming up. So I don't know if they're going to be able to bring back this, complete core again. next year. So to me, I think I don't want to say it's closed for the immediate future, but I think that it definitely, the hole in the window definitely gets a lot slimmer, a lot slimmer. I want to take it over to props. By the way, Vegas has Chiefs to be up at the half and win the game at 2-1 odds. I'm not telling you to take it, just giving you a little information. The Super Bowl line is still San Francisco -1.5. As a road team, obviously it's a neutral site, but they are the road team. Kansas City will be the home team for this game. Who do you think will have more receiving yards, Kev? Is it going to be George Kittle or Travis Kelce?
So I want to say Kelsey, but I do think Kansas City is going to do a good job containing Debo, and I think that's going to give Kittle a lot of openings. So I think Kittle could end up with more receiving yards, but I think they'll likely be more empty than Kelsey's receiving yards. I think Kelsey's going to have the more important yards as the game goes on, and I think Kittle's going to rack up yards because he's open. But yeah, I think Kelsey's going to make more of an impact.
Yeah. I mean, I like when you said I want to say Kelsey, I like the reason you gave Kittle. It's because of Debo Samuel's impact and the opportunity that'll be there for Kittle. But listen, man, this Chiefs team, man, they stick to their guns. They ride with what works. And for whatever reason, I said this throughout the regular season, last year, the year before that. How is Kelsey open? How? How does he? It's the red zone. How is he wide open in the end zone? How is there a coverage bust where 87 is nowhere within 5 yards by the next defender? It just seems to happen. And it's not by a fluke. It's not by a mistake. He is the best tight end in NFL history. Whether you want to argue Rob Gronkowski, fair enough. I believe Travis Kelce is going to be the best tight end in NFL history when it's all said and done. So we have to respect it as such. Travis Kelce is going, the Chiefs are going as far as Travis Kelce takes them. And to me, we saw that in the playoffs where he stepped up big time in these last 2 games they've played. So I don't see anybody who can cover this guy one-on-one on that defense. And if they want to put all their eggs in one basket and, contain him and let everybody else win, hey, that's going to be a good game plan. And last week we saw that Marquez Valdez-Scantling can catch, right? They can use other weapons. So I'm going to go ahead and take Kelce here. It's also one of those things where I don't want to put my money against Travis Kelce or Patrick Mahomes for that matter. So,
And to your point, also of the Chiefs go as far as Kelsey takes them, we saw that. Like we saw that in the regular season when Kelsey struggled, the team struggled. So, yeah, that's a good
because he
point.
had one of his down years. I mean, go look at his stats. It's a down year, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, he struggled. So, but look at last week, man. He goes and the Ravens look like they don't know how to guard him. So, and that's the best defense in the league. I'm not scared of San Francisco's defense in trying to contain 87.
Hey, Kev, give me some key players on Kansas City let's go offense first. And let's say outside of Kelce, I just gave a Kelce, question. Outside of Kelce, who needs to step up in a drastic way for the Chiefs to come out victorious?
I think the run game, Isaiah Pacheco, like if Pacheco is running as angry as he's always running, I mean, that looks like just he reminds me of an angrier Marshawn Lynch, if that's possible. Like he just looks angry at not only the people in front of him, but the crowd that's running. So yeah, I think Isaiah Pacheco is probably outside of Kelsey and obviously Mahomes, Pacheco is probably the most important. And then like June brought up Marcus Valdez Scantling. Can he catch passes? Like, can guys not drop passes like they did all year? The Chiefs were the number 1 team in drops all year. Can your receivers catch passes? And if they can, then I think it's going to be a long night for San Francisco.
And I can 1,000% agree with that. On the defensive end, I mean, my corners, man, the Chiefs' corners are just gonna have to be on one. L'Jarius Sneed is have to continue to play out of his mind. I'll go back to the offensive end. I think Rashee Rice is gonna have to have a very, very, very big game. I mean, I don't know how, Andy Reid's gonna game plan to, I don't know, make sure Travarius Ward isn't on him the entire game, because we're not throwing nothing. We're not throwing no go routes. We're not throwing nothing outside of the numbers, outside of the hash marks against Travarius Ward, because, quite frankly, that is a scary, scary task, if you ask me. Probably be a lot of screen plays, a lot of the 49ers are the number one team against crosses. And, we love to use, and I say we because, I'm a Chiefs fan, of course. We love to use Rashee Rice in those quick slant routes and things like that. So it's going to take some specific game planning. Like Ray alluded in the comments, shout out to Ray in the comments, it's going to take some specific and particular mastermind game plan. June, what about on the other side of the ball? What are some key players for San Francisco? Who's going to have to step up for them to come out victorious for the first time since the 1994 season?
On their offensive side?
Yeah, let's go offense.
Listen, this is just as simple as it looks. It's the battle of the two best teams right here in the biggest game of the year, and where you need your biggest players to make the plays. There's no, Rashee Rice. I like that you mentioned him, because he's not a, X factor where no, Rashee Rice has been a really good rookie for this team all season long, and probably their most consistent receiver. And also had a great playoff debut. So got to give him credit. I do expect him to have a good game. But yeah, I think it's the trio. It's Kittle, McCaffrey, and Debo with some Ayuk. Like, we have to see Ayuk, involved here as well. But the biggest thing, and it's not his fault, but Brock Purdy, are you going to be the guy that takes them where they need to go? Because they've had the team to get them there the whole time. And for me personally, it's been the quarterback that needed to get them over the hump. Brock Purdy last year in the NFC Championship game, that Eagles team was great. And I do think they won either way, but he got hurt, and we didn't get a chance to see him in the second half and see what he can do. This is his opportunity. We saw in the second half last week that they came back against that Lions team, who is no slouch. They don't have as good of a defense, especially defensive backfield, as the Chiefs, but that's a team that got there for a reason and was there for a reason. And so Brock Purdy is going to be the biggest factor in this game. Can he take them over the hump? Because the Super Bowl isn't won by just making a little bit of plays here and there. You got to go. So I'm looking for Brock Purdy.
Glock Purdy, as they say. Like I mentioned, the Chiefs, man, 1.5 underdogs. Like I alluded to earlier, throughout the season, and Kev mentioned it, most drops as far as the wide receiving core in the league. At the same time, they are defending champions. Kev, are the Chiefs true underdogs in this game, or does Vegas have this line messed up?
If you ask me, they shouldn't be underdogs. Like, I'm taking Pat Mahomes and points every time you give it to me. So, yeah, I think I think the Chiefs should be. They're defending champions. They've been here before. They've done this before. They beat this team before. So I think the Chiefs should be favored. Vegas knows more than me, though, so I'll never question Vegas. But if you were asking me, it's Pat Mahomes and the points every time. Give it to me. Pause.
Hey, yo.
Rick James on it.
I mean, look, I've said it myself. Niners on a revenge tour. They've been playing, even when they lost those 3 straight games earlier on in the season. I think it was like weeks 3, 4, 5, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe.
With no Debo.
Maybe a little later. But maybe a little later, right? I said, hey, look, they hit a little bump, but they're gonna be okay. This is a solid team. We saw what Brock Purdy did in the playoffs last year before he was hurt. June, are the Chiefs true underdogs, or are you like Kev? You'll take the points and Patrick Mahomes every time?
Yeah, I don't think that they got it wrong as far as like who's the underdog, because technically, I mean, this 49ers team was a better team all season. They're essentially stronger, they have more. So, but it's about who has what where. And when you have the best tight end in the game, the best quarterback in the game, and arguably these are two of the best players at their position all time, and they're still playing. That's the crazy part. And you also have the better coach. You know, I understand the line because, like I said, what did San Francisco win? 13 games, 12 or 13 games this year, and it looked pretty all season. And the games they lost, it was because they weren't at full strength. Fair enough, I give that to them. But it's just one of those things where when you kind of analyze and dive deep into what's really good and what we know as fans, yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes shouldn't be an underdog in any Super Bowl he starts in. So um, hey, go get that money then, because if you bet on that underdog, you're gonna win some bread. So
4 years ago, Kyle Shanahan was in this exact game against this exact opponent, did not come out victorious. We also know that he was a part of the Atlanta Falcons team against the Patriots that also led up a 28-3 lead. If the Niners do lose this game, Kyle Shanahan, no Hall of Famer? There's always going to be that asterisk on his name where it's like, you were good, you had great teams, you had great assets, but you couldn't win the big one. You think that's factual with the NFL honors actually being tonight, if I'm not mistaken, and announcements being announced? I guess that was a horrible play on words. Does Kyle Shanahan need this victory to be considered one of the great all-time coaches? June, sorry.
yeah, I do think so, and I hate to he's definitely a great coach. Definitely has made an impact on this league. One of the more creative offensive minds, run game master, all of that. But to have all the talent that he has had at his disposal for the last 5 years, and you know going through Aaron Rodgers and having all of this on his resume, not being able to win that Super Bowl will haunt him as far as legacy, as far as all-time great status. Do I think he's still an all-time great coach? Yeah, but we're gonna. There's definitely, I wouldn't say an asterisk, but you're gonna look at it a little differently, understanding that he's 0 for 2 in the Super Bowl. Obviously, if they lose this game, 0 for 2 versus Andy Reid at that matter. And so, hey, I mean, it's you gotta, he's not the player, and all he can do is call his plays and good game plan this week and have his guys prepared, and we'll see what's good on Sunday. But a lot of that, falls back on you, much like the 28-3 loss. As much as everybody's like, yeah, the last time Dan Quinn is a head coach, look what they did in the Super Bowl, and I get it, but like guys quit too. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't control everything that goes on in through 53 guys' minds. So but you're the representative. I do think it has a little hit on his legacy if he fails to win this game.
Ooh, excuse me, sorry. Take it over to the chat. Shout out to Brill in the chat saying we looking official. The new layout is going crazy. Shout out to Lou in the chat as well. Said he's late, but he's here. A better late than never. You know what I'm saying? So we appreciate you if you're tapped in with us right now. Now, Kev, a lot of things going on in Kansas City. I'll kick it over to the other coach and Andy Reid. And there's reports coming out that he is the third lowest paid head coach in the AFC West. I know, June, in the last pod, you said it don't matter. I'll take chump change to win championships. And I hear you. Now, there's also reports of Andy Reid possibly walking away after this season, depending on how this Super Bowl run ends up. Could you see Andy Reid stepping away with a win at the Super Bowl, Kev?
If I could just rewind real quick, I think even if Shanahan wins, I don't have him as like an all-time great coach yet. I don't think he's been coaching long enough to be considered that. However, as far as Andy Reid goes,
Kev, real quick, I think that if you beat Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, it kind of, you know what I'm saying? It kind of amplifies, huh?
Bruce Arians an all-time great coach for you?
Point made.
Yeah, I'm not putting Shanahan there yet. But as far as Andy Reid goes, $10 million of chump change, I'll take that too. But yeah, I could see it. I could definitely see it. He's older. He's he's getting to the point where it's like if he wins a third one, it would be his third, right? If he wins a third one, it's like, how much more can you do? even though with this team you could probably do a whole lot more. But it makes it more interesting, even so that the fact that Eric Bieniemy was just let go of his position in Washington, and I think that could be a name that you maybe look out for if Andy Reid does decide to step away. Maybe Bieniemy makes a comeback to Kansas City and takes over that team. It's not like he's not familiar with the guys there. They're not familiar with him. So um, I think that makes it a little bit more interesting, and the fact that that could be a possibility. But if I'm Andy Reid, I'm riding until the wheels fall off with Mahomes. So
I mean, you gave this guy $500 million. There was reports that Eric Bieniemy did visit the Kansas City Chiefs prior to the AFC Championship this year. Spoke to the offensive team, to the offensive side of the ball, and I mean, I think that fact makes the fact that that Washington didn't let him go. They just hired somebody else for his job a little more interesting. Like there was something in the water already that he knew was going on. So yeah, those reports that he jetted back, met with the Chiefs, talked to the offensive guys. The turnout was a turnout. The Chiefs won the AFC Championship and now in the Super Bowl again. June, the moment that we've all been waiting for. Chiefs +1.5, Niners -1.5, Super Bowl 58. Who you got and why?
Yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs. One main reason is really like it's the Brady effect. I'm going to treat this as such. I cannot put money against Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to fool myself. I've seen it. We've thought he was down and out at points in games. We've saw this season, we thought he was down and out in the regular season. You can't. And going back to Ray's point in the comments, shout to Ray, shout to Lou, shout to Brill. Appreciate y'all for being here. Andy Reid is an amazing coach, right? And he has his guys prepared. He knows how to adjust on the fly. He lets not only his quarterback, but he lets his players play to their strengths and to their comfort levels. And that kind of, in my opinion, lets you play as freely as possible. With all that being said, yeah, I got Kansas City in a good game. I don't have a score prediction. I don't really like score predictions, but I do think Kansas City comes out victorious. And EP, you're gonna be up here on Monday talking that shit. I don't think we're gonna do a Super Bowl Sunday. We might. We'll see how we feeling. We'll see how we feeling. Maybe do a little post game show. You know what I'm saying? But if not, I think you'll be popping shit on Monday for sure.
Kev, Super Bowl Sunday. Who you got and why?
I'm rolling with Mahomes, man. Like I said weeks ago on the show, you can't. I'm not betting against him. I don't recommend anybody bet against him. He's just proven to be that guy now. This is his era of football. So I got Mahomes, and if June doesn't want to give a score, I will. I'll go 30-13 Kansas City. I don't think it's going to be that close.
Jeez, 30-30, a 17-2 score game.
Yeah, take that. Last play of the game is QB Neal.
What color is the Gatorade going to be, boys?
That one I don't know.
Give me Chiefs red, bro. Give me Chiefs red.
I don't know. I think they might give you like Lions Blue, that Glacier Freeze, which was the first Gatorade flavor I ever had as a youngster. I'll never forget Glacier Freeze. That's my shit. That's OG right there. I mean, listen, I've spoken all season about this revenge tour that the Niners are on, and I think while it might have just sounded like I'm just speaking on last year and their kind of meltdown in the NFC Championship after Brock Purdy was hurt and all that, I think subconsciously, I think it had a lot to do with Super Bowl 54 4 years ago, and the Chiefs doing what they did to them in those last, call it 20 minutes or so, to come out victorious. It's not going to be an easy game. I think that the Chiefs do have a better defense than 4 years ago when this matchup was in this same position down in South Florida. I do think that the Niners at this point have a better defense than 4 years ago when this matchup was in South Florida. The offensive side of the ball is a little tricky Bieniemy not being there is a little tricky for me. But at the end of the day, if you was wondering what shade red I have on, let me treat this like draft day and put the hat on after I give the take. It's gonna be a Chiefs victory. We're going back to back for the first time since the Patriots did it in the early 2000s. And you know what, Kev? I fuck with you. So I'm gonna also give a prediction of 21-17. I think it'll be a closer game, but the Chiefs will win. You want to take the plus 105 with the Chiefs money line? Take it. If you're scared, go to church, take the 1.5. That don't make no sense to me, but do what you want. But it's gonna be a back-to-back Chiefs Super Bowl, back-to-back Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl MVP. And if he didn't have so many drops in the season, he'd have another MVP in his hand. But shout out to that boy Lamar Jackson because he was killing it all regular season. Yeah.
Hey, real quick, none of us, I'm surprised we haven't heard this name all pod. And I don't want to finish the pod without mentioning his name because I said this last week and I didn't bring him up this week. And I think it's disrespectful. And I mentioned Spagnuolo as an X factor, as the defense being an X factor, but it starts again in the middle. It starts in the trenches. His name is Chris Jones. He's number 95. He clogs up the middle. He harasses the quarterback. He demanded the Chiefs pay him what he wanted until he stepped on the field this season, and he didn't play for the first month or so. He got on the field, made an immediate impact, and even until week 18, where he got a sack and cashed in for over $1 million because he's just that good. He knows the Chiefs need him, and the Chiefs know the Chiefs need him. So for that being what it is, Chris Jones has to have a great game. And that his first task has to be stopping Christian McCaffrey and just clogging up the middle. Like, make it uncomfortable. Obviously, he'll get to the quarterback. He's a pass rusher at heart, big guy, but he needs to buckle down and stuff the middle and force Christian McCaffrey to the boundary. And, it's going to come down to making tackles, right? Cornerbacks are going to have to tackle. But Snead and Gay, you guys got good outside speed and good tacklers. So I don't see there being too much of a problem. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, to tackle him and to game plan for him is easier said than done. But Chris Jones, man, we got to give him credit. He came in here and talked his shit, and this is why he talks the way he does. And I'm not mad about how arrogant Chris Jones is as a player. He's a nasty, hard-nosed D tackle who earns all of his dollars. So shout out to him.
And just to get something correct, he missed the first game of the season. He came back week 2 against the Jaguars.
Okay, so it was the preseason. Okay, so
yeah, he missed the preseason. You're good. He missed the first game. I remember I was in Capri. I was in Italy when I told everybody, look, this Chiefs Jaguars game, take Chiefs money line. Don't take the points because they don't really cover. They just win. I remember this. I was on the swing coming down Capri on the mountain and everything when I was typing up the message.
Wow.
Weird flex, but okay,
Hey, weird flex, but okay. Nah, it's a flex, bro. Shout to Italy. Shout to G. Let's risk more profit in the chat. EP, Gio, Antoine, Adon, all family of the All Things Sports podcast. Let's risk more profit. I've been waiting for them to create some sort of social media account so they could really get it popping. I don't know who's in charge of that, but whoever's listening from LRMP family, get that going. The crowd needs to hear the locks. The crowd needs to know how good you guys are at what you do. And just stay tuned, boys, because I'm thinking it's going to be around baseball season. That's where they really, really be killing it. But G said light blue Gatorade. G said Chiefs money line all day. He got Chiefs winning 31-21. And my cousin Lou said light blue Gatorade is the only color that matters. Shout out to him. Shout out to G. Shout out to Grant, my boy Grant Pack in the building. Grant Pack, so EP is a Ravens fan. So, be nice. But he comes with respect all the time. And he said that the new layout is clean. He likes the shout out to Lamar Jackson. And Lamar, listen, shout out to the MVP of the NFL. We must say that. Lamar Jackson, congratulations on winning your second MVP. We always love watching you play. We wish you could have been in the bowl. Obviously, EP is glad that you're not. But regardless of the fact you do a lot of things for the community in Baltimore. You know, you got a lot of kids looking up to you around the country, in Broward County especially. So just keep doing what you're doing, and I hope this isn't the last one. I don't expect it, but next MVP, I want it to be a Super Bowl MVP. Shout out to you.
Speaking of LRMP, um, the play I gave out in the last pod didn't really cash. You know, if anybody took it, I apologize. It's like that. That's the nature of gambling. But tonight, I'm gonna give you another one, and it's gonna go. I'm gonna take it to the NHL. Before we go to the NBA, I'm taking it to the NHL, and I'm taking it to the home team. The Florida Panthers are hosting your Washington Capitals. June. I know not your team, but your boy plays on the team in Ovechkin.
Got the Ovi.
Hey, Panthers -1.5. Take it to the bank. It's cashed in 3 out of the last 5 head to head, 3 out of the last 4 in Florida head to head. I mean, Capitals have lost by more than 1 goal in 4 out of the last 5 games. They're just kind of in a free fall. Take Panthers -1.5. We are going to take this over to the hard court, as they say, in the NBA.
Hardwood. Pause,
Hardwood definitely big on the pause.
I should have let you just go with hardcore. It sounds weird.
Yo, every pod I want to say that, but I'm just like, it's not even worth it. That's why I always like pause for a second.
We could go with the association. You know,
the association definitely sounds a lot better.
Or basketball works. You know,
the association definitely sounds a lot better. Not gonna hold you.
We're gonna take you to the hardwood.
Hey yo. A lot of things happen in this, and you could say not a lot of things happen. You could say a lot of things happen. It just really depends on how you want to view it. Kev, I'm gonna take it away real quick. Biggest surprise in this trade deadline before it ended, or biggest acquisition? What stood out to you with this trade deadline coming to an end?
I was surprised actually with the PJ Washington deal. I think PJ Washington's on one of the best contracts in the league. So I'm not sure what Charlotte's plan is. I don't think that Charlotte knows what Charlotte's plan is. So they traded for Grant Williams, who I believe is on a longer contract, making more money than PJ Washington. I could have that wrong, but I believe that's the case. So that trade to me I don't know what Charlotte was doing. I love it for Dallas. But yeah, that to me was the biggest surprise, I guess you could say.
What about you, June?
By the way, yeah, Grant Williams is on a 4-year 53. PJ Washington's on a 3-year 46. So little questionable there. And when has Charlotte ever known what they were doing or what direction they want to go in? I mean, it's pretty sad that we have to watch stars like LaMelo Ball and upcoming rising star Brandon Miller, who's kind of just had this stretch of a month of amazing basketball played. Like, hopefully, things can get figured out. It's like the Cade Cunningham thing in Detroit, but it is what it is. Surprised. I wasn't really surprised. There wasn't really a trade today that I saw and was like, oh my God. I think that as quiet as the Knicks were after the Obi, or not the Obi trade, but the Anunoby trade, I knew that they would probably make one more move or get rid of that Fournier contract. I wasn't sure how big or effective or impactful the move would be, but I think that them getting Burks back and Bogdanovich back from Detroit, even after, Detroit throughout the season has said, like, we're not interested in trading Bogdanovich for whatever reason, but
the man's a walking triple-double. That's probably the reason.
Funny, as we're speaking about this, I got the ABC 7 News on, and they're talking about it right now. So Quentin Grimes is gone, Malachi Flynn is gone, Evan Fournier, Ryan, Arch the you-know-who, and 2 second-round picks, I believe, got the job done. And just to kind of talk about this trade here, man, like, you're bringing in a 20-point-per-game scorer who's a lethal three-point shooter. He shoots over 40%. Alec Burks is another bench 40% from 3 guy who has familiarity in New York already. He's a fan favorite from my understanding, and it's just like the Knicks got deeper with the Anunoby trade, and
Facts.
now with this trade, it kind of just like, okay, this team is really going for it all right here, and you got to respect it. I mean, Leon Rose has a goal. He has a goal, and he's putting his franchise in the best position to achieve so. Now, whether they do or not, look, I'm not here for that. We'll talk about that when that really matters. I don't believe they will, but I do have to give credit, again, like for them making the moves. And it's funny because Anunoby's been missing games. He's got this elbow. Nobody wants to say anything. And now it turns out he had a little surgery. And so I heard rumblings on Twitter from Knicks fans that, okay, he's probably hurt. He's probably needing a surgery. He's probably getting a surgery. So that thought came to my mind. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then you see these trades today. And it was one of those things like, no, we had to make these moves today to be able to, we're dealing with Julius Randle out for a couple more weeks. And now Anunoby's going to miss a few weeks. Jalen Brunson, whether he misses more than 2 to 3 weeks, it's an ankle, and those are like easily tweakable again. So we want to make sure he gets back to full strength. So it's just a sure up move and one of those moves that's going to promise them, a fair shot in the playoffs. So I respect that.
I will say about Bogdanovich really quick. He's been dealing with a calf injury since the beginning of the season, and he was just out yesterday. Who knows if that had to do with because they wanted to just preserve him for the trade. But calf injuries to me, especially lingering ones, are terrifying. And as far as the 20 points per game, I mean, that's to me, that's
fair. I do got to spit facts, but I get it.
Yeah.
No, he will not be a 20-point per game or 12-point per game scorer in New York.
And they'll go crazy when he's not.
Here we go. We did have Dejounte Murray associated to some trade rumors, specifically going to New Orleans, but it seems like New Orleans was not willing to give up CJ McCollum. Understandably, Dejounte Murray stays in Atlanta. Kev, did that surprise you?
No, because I don't know what their asking price was, and I think it may have been a little bit too much for what teams were willing to give. I'm also a believer that if there's one that they're looking at moving the wrong guard, but that's another conversation for another day.
Trae Young is Atlanta, bro. That's not happening.
Trae Young needs to play off the ball more if he wants to stay in Atlanta, in my opinion. But who am I?
Hey, yo, listen, you are big Kev shot it. Listen, don't ever question yourself, all right? I see the talent, all right? Don't ever question yourself, and you be knowing shit.
I see the vision.
Kev got a lot of points on this podcast that have come to real life or thoughts that have come to fruition. So, but if you're asking me, I was a bit surprised that Dejounte Murray stayed. And it was more so just because of how much his name was brought up in trade talks. It felt inevitable. We didn't know if it was going to be at one point Miami, whether it was going to be New York. And then, New Orleans became like the latest, candidate. But yeah, I think Atlanta's asking price was pretty high. So teams stayed away. And for better or worse. What's
rightfully
that?
so. No, I was saying rightfully so. They've got to. They gave a lot.
You definitely want a big return for a guy like Dejounte Murray if you're going to give him up. He's a good player.
And I believe they gave 3 or 4 first-round picks for him. So you've got to at least recoup 2 of those. And the market just didn't seem like teams were giving up 2 firsts in this market today. So
Gordon Hayward, out of Charlotte, on his way to OKC. Charlotte seems to be wanting to keep Bridges and pay him the bag that he's probably going to ask for after this season. It looks like they're shipping people out of town to make sure they have the money. How do you guys like Gordon Hayward over in OKC, Julian?
I love that move. I think it adds another vet presence in that locker room. They still need another big, to help with some rebounding and just kind of relieve Chet from having to pound so much. But yeah, he's a scorer. Pause. Gordon Hayward is a scorer by nature. Obviously after the injury, he hasn't been himself and confidence has been low, this, that, and the third. But they're not going to ask him to do too much. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do too much if you're Gordon Hayward. I think the biggest thing is like being a professional in the locker room and showing the guys how to handle certain situations. And I think they realize like, we're a top team in the West, and whether they sustain this throughout the end of April, if they lock up the number 1 or 2 seed in the West, they need somebody in that locker room to like, all right, guys, this is a lot, but you know what I'm saying? Let's take it game by game. Like a playoff series matters. And so, real quick on the Toronto trade, what did surprise me, just back to your question, what did surprise me, I just thought about it. Kelly Olynyk went for a first-round pick, and I didn't think Kelly Olynyk was necessarily worth a first-round pick, and that's no discredit to him.
The
Go ahead, Kev, what
clinic.
were you gonna say?
As far as the Olynyk trade, I don't necessarily think that the first was for Olynyk. I think Agbaji was more the get for Toronto. I think they're high on him, so I think that was the first round pick more for
Yeah.
Agbaji than it was
What
Kelly.
does Masai know that we don't know?
Who knows?
And in that OKC trade, you got Curry on his way, and not Steph Curry, but Seth Curry on his way back home to Charlotte, where they played high school basketball. I think it's going to be a similar thing. They're not going to ask them to do too much, just like they're not going to ask Gordon Hayward to do too much in OKC. It's going to be a very interesting, season.
I think he should get bought out, man. Seth Curry does not deserve to play in Charlotte right now. That is a shooter. That is somebody that can help a contender, go over the top with some good 3-point shooting and spacing. What you got, Kev?
Charlotte's not asking anybody to do too much.
So.
Yo, Steve Clifford, like I love Coach Clifford. Like I think he's one of the better coaches in the league as far as like, his character and what he stands for and how he goes about, I guess, teaching the game of basketball. Like, but he had to admit himself, like, listen, we're not for real. We're just not for real. And the fact that coach has to say that publicly is embarrassing. I think it's one of those like honest things, but like it's not something that he's never tried to do. It's not something he's never preached to the locker room or anything he's never had to tell the team as far as taking defense more seriously or, not laughing your ass off while we're down 25 at home, things like that. And it just seems like something they can't shake. I don't know that firing Coach Clifford and hiring someone else is going to be the answer. But then again, what is the answer for Charlotte to kind of turn around as a franchise, Kev? Because very unserious over there. Very.
Blow it up. That's the only answer. When your coach is showing more passion than your players, it's time to just blow it up.
And okay, so that brings me to the point that is LaMelo Ball not necessarily a bust, but is he just not ever going to be who we thought he could be?
I think it's all about your environment at the end of the day. Like he's come up in an environment that's not serious about winning. They don't care about spending money on real free agents. Like I just think he's in a scenario where he's like, all right, I'm gonna go hoop every night and I don't care if we win, I don't care if we lose. I'm gonna just go put up numbers and do my thing. And like you can't blame him after 3-4 years in that environment. That's what it just becomes. You become a habit of what's around you. And so yeah, I think he needs to be somewhere where they have a winning culture if he wants to, or he needs to just become that guy. Like become the guy who
I don't see it in his character, bro. We've watched this kid since he was 16 years old, and 16-year-olds can be goofballs all they want, right? Like he's a goofball, and that's cool. And being a young rook in the NBA, that's cool. You have your time, but bro, he's on his second contract now. Like when are we gonna start to really mature and be the leader of the guys? Like Terry Rozier was that guy in the locker room who, if anything, held things together amongst a guy like Miles Bridges, who was dealing with a lot of legal trouble, with a guy like LaMelo Ball, who has all the attention in the world and can't stay healthy, but always dropping a new shoe. I don't see a route where the Hornets, unless they like you said, blow it up. I don't see a route where the Hornets become that team and LaMelo Ball is still a part of it. So that's just me. Brandon Miller might be better suited for that. He seems like a more poised, mature individual who just wants to hoop and win. He seems like he cares about winning. But Man, it does seem like they have a lot of fun and too much fun over there
Yeah,
for having such a bad season.
you should never be having that much fun while you're losing by 25 points. Like that's and
Yeah.
to your point, like Brandon Miller does seem like the only one who cares. And so if you're Charlotte, I think it's a real you need to really look into what can I get for LaMelo this offseason
Yeah.
and see where his value is. And if it's worth it to pull the trigger, then pull the trigger and start building around Brandon Miller.
Hey, look, we got I know Kev, you gotta go, bro. So we're gonna end it around here. I do want to shout out to the chat. I appreciate y'all for tapping in. We got 9 people watching. Whether that seems like just 9 people, that shit looks like 100 to me. We got the chat jumping, people, you know what I'm saying, showing love. And I gotta say, Kev, Ed said you smile like you got new teeth.
I wish I had
That
new
shit
teeth.
had me. I had to
That's
control my
funny.
laugh for a second because what the hell? But we got one more question before we get out of here. Jason wants to know: has LaMelo Ball showed you anything to be a true franchise player? Like, and I think I kind of answered that as in what I was saying about LaMelo. Nah, I think that if he goes to a situation like Kev said, where maybe he has some other vets, you know, he can definitely contribute to winning. He's a great player. We're not questioning the talent, but just the maturity level isn't there. And if you want to be a great and have a legacy in this league, you gotta be for real.
And he's been the superstar since he's in high school. Like sometimes it's hard to get out of that mentality of like, all right, it's time for me to grow up a little bit and mature and take the bull by the horns and become
Youngest sibling syndrome.
yeah, like you gotta at some point realize like, all right, this is the big boys that I'm playing with now. Like this isn't high school anymore. You know, is I'm not playing in Australia anymore, where the second best player in this league is RJ Hampton. Like it's time to buckle up and it's time to put the pedal to the metal and really like decide: are you going to become an All NBA player, or are you just cool with losing every year and putting
Right.
up triple double every now and then and doing a cool like taking a cool step back and making it look nice, but he
Hey,
hasn't shown to be like that mature leader that they need.
Lloyd Banks once said, traveling to Japan to attract new fans, let him get to know the man with the tattooed hands. I mean, maybe he just wants to be loved around the world. Who knows? Who knows? You know who definitely is loved around the world? Happy Gigi and Kobe Day, 2/8/24. This day will probably.
Damn, you ruined my joke. Hey, respect to the legend. I was gonna say Taylor Swift. But
Damn.
go ahead.
Nah. Happy Gigi and Kobe Day, 2/8/24. We'll never see this date again. Shout out to, you know, a legend and a up and coming legend and star in herself and Gigi. And hate to end it on a solemn note, but you know, life be lifing. And small town family did lose a brother this in the last couple of days by the name of Chris Fletcher. Yesterday early morning, Wednesday early morning, he did pass away on his way to the hospital, and then with an unfortunate gunshot wound. Our condolences to the family, condolences to his kids. We love you. You guys gained a beautiful angel. Like I said, I hate to end on a solemn note, but a quick, you know, moment of silence for Chris Fletcher. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this was your Thursday night All Things Sports, your number one sports podcast episode. If once again, if you tuned in live, everybody that's in the live in the chat, tapping in with us, we appreciate you. You could have been anywhere in the world on this beautiful Thursday night, but you were here tapped in with us. Us being me, your co-host, Small Town EP, Wade Julian, your host, special guest, Big Kev Shot It. Super Bowl weekend. Chiefs going back to back, or the Niners gonna do it to them? Is Glock Purdy gonna come out on top, or is Patrick Mahomes gonna get another Super Bowl MVP?
Hey, is Travis Kelce gonna propose to his girl? That's what I want to know.
And just real quick, I appreciate y'all having me on this podcast. The number one sport, my number one sports podcast, your number one sports podcast. There was another podcast that dropped today that was ass cheeks. So
Yeah. Go watch that Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart. Tell them they ain't fucking with us.
yeah,
Shout out to them.
I had to get one off as a Heat fan.
It is. If we don't see you Sunday night for the post Super Bowl show, we will definitely see you Monday evening. And until then,